Right, hi people. What we got here? It's MarsBar versus Ghazghkull. This is actually one of the round one deciders. So I'm kind of well off the pace here. I'm also casting on the wrong account, so I don't have my normal overlay. This is the standard overlay. But you can do cool stuff with the standard overlay. Look at that. That's quite neat, isn't it? Yeah, I know, right? Anyway, let's get this cooking up. So MarsBar as the Terran player in the bottom right of what is this submarine, and opening with double depot. Hate to see it, absolutely hate to see it. Spawning pool first for Ghazghkull up in the top left. No Overlord Scout, or at least, sorry, there is an Overlord Scout, but this one is just hanging out. Anyway. This fella does appear, like here we are 120, that does seem a bit late, so I'm not sure if this got sent straight away. Hatchery comes down as the spawning pool actually finishes up, so this is a pretty strong pool first build, but no lings in production look, and 3 idle workers, so not really sure what the hold up is there. Will need overlords as well if he does want to build a flood of lings, but it looks like we're going to get a roach. It looks like we're going to get a roach push. It's a double barracks from the Terran, so he should be able to defend pretty easily. The first things coming out are going to be Marines, and this Overlord is deep, so this Overlord's going to get caught, and there's no way out for this Overlord, I don't think. It's pretty straightforward for the Marine to come down over here even, but the Marine can come down onto the low ground even and should be able to get this Overlord. Oh, but he does have to run. Overlord's going to get away, you've got to be kidding me. Or is he? I think I sent both the Marines to make sure I get enough hurt on this Overlord. It does go down, but doesn't actually in the end supply block Ghazghkull. So Ghazghkull beginning to get a couple of roaches out, but look, still idle workers here, and this time there is a supply available, so I don't know, man. It's not the crispest, is it? It's not the crispest, but I should lighten up. It's only round one of the novice tournament, isn't it? So anyway, third is in production at under the 5-minute mark, so I'm not going to complain. This is looking all right. We've got a tech lab for MarsBar, but no upgrades coming from that just yet. Does interestingly have armor and +1 queued up there in the eBay, but you know, this is more important than armor. This combat shield is probably the first thing that you should be getting, really. Marauders coming out, and those can help a great deal against roaches, because Marauders are very tough indeed. With the roaches being armored, armor works particularly well against Marines, not so well against those roaches. So they're against those Marauders. So Marauders can help a lot. Spire is in production with the Hydrodan. Not a combo that you see, I guess, but you know, why wouldn't you get a Hydrodan? Hydras are good. What I'd love to see from Ghazghkull here is some creep spread to join these bases together, get these queens spread in a little bit of creep. At present the queens are doing nothing. He's got a queen on each base, but they're not injecting, so he's not getting the extra larva because of those queens, and they're not spreading creep either. So they're not really, finally, a series of injects go off there. So if you are going to play Zerg, that is something you do need to stay on top of. I like this, I like the wall. Yeah, a siege tank, a wall, it just makes it really, really difficult to push into a Terran when they've got this type of setup. The wall is going to slow you down, and while you're slowed down trying to kill that wall, any siege tanks that are behind it are just going to do huge damage to you. A Thor coming out, which is a slightly odd choice, but a choice that could do incredibly well against Mutalisks. The Mutalisks are actually at home though, doing nothing. So again, if you're playing Zerg, as a top tip, Mutalisks are units that have to be busy to be effective. So build mutas by all means, but make sure what they're doing is flying into your opponent's base, killing workers. Now MarsBar, meanwhile, is diligently building SCVs in his men, but you need to redistribute them. You only need 8 workers to optimally mine these, 2 for each mineral patch, but you've got 21 here. Meanwhile, you're 4 short here, so needs to sort of redistribute those. A Thor as a Terran, a single Thor is actually something that you quite commonly see to protect against Mutalisk play. And the reason for that is Thors do splash damage in the air, so they are about the best unit in the game against Mutalisks. They're so good at killing mutas, because the mutas tend to clump together, and the Thor just Thors are very tanky units, and mutas don't really do an awful lot of damage, so they're good against light units because they do that splash. They're not good against heavy duty single units. So mutas are poor against the Thor, and the Thor is very good against the mutas. These 2 Banshees are a little bit like Mutalisks in as much as they're useless in a straight up fight. Well, you see how quickly these die. But what they're very good at doing is harassing. Now, the siege tank's pretty lit to siege up here, and I don't know that it should have sieged at all. So yeah, certainly had that siege tank been sieged up earlier, we might have got a slightly better result, because Hydras are pretty squishy. But in the end, that did look pretty one-sided. I'm just going to back this up a little. And just let's have a look at this fight. I think it's not a great engagement from our Terran player, but to be fair, the army supply is quite significantly in favor of the Zerg. Now, with that said, the upgrades are in favor of the Terran. There is 1-1 done for the bio, but look, these 2 Banshees just add nothing. They kill 1 roach. A lot of this stuff isn't shooting yet. None of the Marauders have fired yet. The siege tank is only going to get like 1, maybe 2 volleys off before it goes down. There's the second volley. Does manage a third, but you know, had that been sieged up in the back first, and then those units come forward all together rather than kind of line strung out in a line, then maybe you get a better engage. As it was though, Ghazghkull crushes that pretty handily, but does lose quite a number of his own units. So army supplies right now 66 to 33. I mean, as Ghazghkull, I'm not sure what you're waiting for. The worker supply is in favor of the Terran. That's an ugly state of affairs. Terrans have mules that they can drop, so can generally get by with fewer workers. As a Zerg, you want to be ahead economically always. You know, you want extra bases, you want to be consuming more map than your opponent, and our Zerg player here at present just isn't. It's 4 bases each. Now, with that said, still building Mutalisks that just aren't going to achieve anything really. These mutas need to be busy. They're harassment units, they're not fighting units. But what I do like is the inclusion of Ultras. Ultras very good against bio, so really good against Marines. Not so good against these heavier duty things, but not terribly either. Ultras just generally very tanky, heavy duty units indeed. Look, these siege tanks, if they were sieged up, would be doing a lot of damage to the Hydralisks. As it is, this is a pretty messy engage with a lot of the Terran units not really shooting, piled up on top of each other. The siege tanks not sieged up, which is a shame, because if they were, they have that extra range, they have the splash damage. So this Zerg army actually able to get quite a lot done before it dies. A bit of a shambles really from the Terran. You know, if you lower these depots and get your units down under the low ground, it's better. If you get these siege tanks sieged up, it's better. Yeah, a bit of a messy hold, but a lot of units killed. So if we look at the army supply, it actually is pretty even. The worker supply after all of that is pretty even. Composition wise, let's just have a look at the upgrades in that. Upgrades, again, actually pretty even. There are flyer upgrades for the Zerg, not sure about that. We've got the roach speed, we've got the Hydra spines, and those types of things. We've also got 1-1 for the bio on the Terran side of things too. So things not looking so desperately different. The Zerg, of course, able to kind of build units a bit quicker, but you know, again, still cranking out mutas and not really using them in any sort of effective way. These Thors, 3 Thors, will shut those mutas down so hard. Now, this is an interesting choice because Hellions, great early game units. They're fast, they can get stuff done, they're good at killing workers. Let's see how these Mutalisks do against the firepower of the Marines and the Thors here. You can see that Thor splash damage just kind of obliterating them. But these Ultras are going to come through and stand strong for quite some time. Ghosts are expensive units. You want to keep those alive if you can, and you want to use the snipe function on these Ultralisks. Snipe pretty much is just going to cut through that armor and do huge amounts of damage to these things. These are too far forward and the Hydras are just going to focus them down. That's a real shame because the Liberators behind the wall could have produced liberation zones and actually done an incredibly good job. Again, if the siege tank's slightly further forward, sieged up, I think that's a little bit too far back, but you know, Hydras are not armored, and so stuff that does splash damage like a siege tank is very, very effective against them. But you're going to need more than just the one siege tank to clean this up, I feel. So again, this base looks like it's going to fall. Again, it does look like maybe eventually the Terran cleans this up. But, you know, at quite a cost. What's in production here for the Terran? There's 1 BC. Like, why aren't there units being built? You've got like these, you know, you've got these factories sitting idle. Look how much money there is. The barracks sitting idle. Why aren't, like, how are you going to defend this when you're not building any stuff? Build some stuff. What are you doing? What's happening here? I don't really understand what the 50 APM is being used for, because it certainly isn't being used to build anything. Maybe too busy staring at the other side of the map. Did something interesting happen there? Doesn't look like it was anything particularly interesting. I think it was just a single Liberator flying across and tangling with some Overlords. So yeah, not really sure why we're not building stuff at this point. Yeah, so, you know, with the Terran production just stationary, meanwhile Mutalisks being cranked out for the Zerg, it's beginning to feel like this is going to be a Zerg victory. The Mut is coming across the map. You know, Mutalisks will of course kill siege tank pretty effectively, but the Thor just pumping out damage onto them. One on its own now, and especially if it's hanging off the underside of a medevac, just isn't going to do it. BC's not really the tool to kill those Mutalisks. So now that the Zerg is up, and you need to drop this Thor, man. This Thor could be doing work, and it just isn't. Yeah, so all a bit unfortunate. I believe there is a nuke kind of loaded into the chamber, but all the ghosts are gone. I don't think cloaking had been researched, so no opportunity to cloak the ghosts and get any sort of shots off. So it looks like this is just going to be GG. We might get a bit of a, as is frequently the case in the EMS League, we might get a bit of a salty hang-on. But yeah, there's Zerg everywhere. You know, while the Terran player is mining, there's nothing happening in the production tab whatsoever, because he doesn't have any production structures left. So, yeah, there was potential. There was potential for MarsBar to actually come good there, but a couple of pretty grim engagements, to be fair. GG.